Hello, how you doing tonight? I been doing some more reading. It's a little something I'd like to read to you. It's out of the Bewildered Society, and then I'm going to get into the manuscript manual that I had told you about, the silent weapons for quiet wars. And this has to do with basically the way the powers that be are actually and intentionally manufacturing destruction upon the American people. How they're doing it to you at your family level. And if you'll bear with me, I think I can get this point across pretty clear. The originalization of man. It is easy to fight obvious tyranny, but it's not easy to fight benevolence. And few things are more calculated to rob the individual of his defenses than the idea that his interests and those of society can be wholly compatible. The good society is the one in which these are most compatible, but they never can be completely so. And one who lets the organization be the judge ultimately sacrifices himself. Like the good society and the good organizations, encourages individual expression, and many have done so. But there always remains the conflict between the individual and the organization. Is the organization to be the arbiter? The organization will look to its own interests, but it will look to the individual only as the organization interprets them. Now, as I proceed with this, I would like you to think as organization as government, which is actually corporation for profit, but refer to them as organization. That organizational determination of interest tends to dehumanize the individual, since he becomes limited to serving as a means of achieving institutional goals. To that extent, he ceases to be an individual, such as institutional life comes to be conducted without regard to persons. The activities of the individual within the institution are guided by a book of rules. The institutional structures which touch to the individual's life come to dominate so large a portion of his capacities and attitudes that he takes his definition of life and personality from the collective experience. Now keep that in mind when it comes to children. Collective experience. The little sponges need a little more than what they are getting. The road to success is such a system is through adjustment, through losing oneself in a larger process, through learning to conform rather than create. Bureaucracy takes over when men are no longer willing to try or willing to think for themselves. Just as the organization man has come to characterize much of the modern business, so his counterpart is the commonplace in labor organization. More and more men, it seems, have a faith in the power of organization to assure their future. Such as the organization man has come to characterize much of the modern business, so his counterpart is his commonplace in labor organization. More and more men, it seems, have a faith in the power of organization to assure their future. If business and labor have both demanded that the individual, that he find a place in the system. Our educational structures has made the same demand on the students and the teacher. No other aspect of our over-institutionalized society has grown as fast as the university. The old idea of the university as a loose association of individualists, is not outright eccentrics. Now that's if not outright eccentrics. Each going his independent way has all but disappeared. Administrative office, often held in mild contempt by the scholar, has gained its stature and power and organization. Of course, of schools, of interdepartmental programs, and of research has become the order of the day. As administrators are taking over, the organization is coming to be valued above men. And dedicated teacher-scholar is inevitably going out of fashion and being replaced in favor by the academic bureaucrat. Bureaucrat. The latter is, in general outline, hardly distinguishable from his brother in business or industry, less prosperous by far, but almost equally subservient to the rules and regulations of his professional office. Bureaucratic centralization, bigness, for its own sake, institutional monastery, repressing the individual into his place within the system, have become the accepted standards of the 20th century America. Our politics, our economics, and our social order all drive us in the same anti-personal direction, with results from which the following chapters should make abundantly clear. Now, if you take our government, that corporation for profit, crown-owned Vatican company, and then you go to the document that's you can find at the lawpath.com, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And I just wanted to share little things with you. They've got this down to such a science, and they treat it like electricity, input and output, and in the studies that I told you about before, the data banks, which are everything you do goes into a data bank, and it doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't. You have banks, you go to work, you pay taxes, you have medical treatment, you have a credit card, you get a library card, you got a mailbox, anything you do. All that information is documented in some fashion, and now it's done electronically, and it goes to a data bank, and there are people that are hired to sit there and study everything that everybody does, and it goes into a numbers thing. Okay, so they know what we're doing, they know when we're doing it, and then they have these little things that they like to do. It's Chimera. Mira wants to talk to you too. It's called the Introduction to Economic Amplifiers. And what they do is they generate problems, and then they study us, and they watch our behavior, how we cope with things like they drive up the oil price, so the gasoline goes higher. And so now we only get our dollar amount that we earn, and then we have to subdue something, Okay, now is it going to be the rent, the food, the clothes, the dog doesn't eat? You know, something. We're going to give up something because we got to go to work to pay the bills. So here's a couple things that here's just a short list of inputs. Let's say they're going to put this in. Okay, you're going to find this kind of interesting, I think. Okay. So general sources of information are telephone taps, analysis of garbage, surveillance. That's why they have all those cameras on every stoplight now. Behavior of children in schools. Let's see. Oh, the standards of living by your food, shelter, clothing, transportational, your social contracts. Telephone, itemized records of calls. Family, marriage certificates, birth certificates, friends, associations, etc. Memberships in organizations, political affiliations. Then they have the personal paper trail. That'd be your checking accounts, credit cards, all that. Your assets, your liabilities, your government sources. Those are ploys. Then you got, then you have the government sources. That's severe intimidation. You have other government sources, and that's surveillance of your U.S. mail. Then you got habit patterns, programming. Interesting term, programming. The strengths and weaknesses. Activities. Be sports and hobbies. See legal for fear, anger, etc. Crime records. Hospital records. Psychiatric records. Suggestibility or hypnosis plan, pleasure, love, sex. Methods of coping of adaptability behavior. Okay, those would be the consumption of alcohol, drugs, entertainment, religious, and other methods of escaping from reality. Payment modus operandi, pay on time, etc. Okay, now you got to always pay on time for that stuff. Here we go. Here these are. You got to pay on time for those too, but these are the regular pay on times. Your rent, you know, loans, credit cards, energy bills. Then you have political sensitivity, beliefs, contacts, positions, strengths, weaknesses. All this stuff is studied. Okay, it's all recorded, all on that database. Anything you look on your computer. I'm sure I'm on every red list on their market system. I'm a searchaholic. Then they have these short, here's a short list of outputs. Okay, those were all inputs. Allocates opportunities, destroys opportunities. Controls the economic environment. Controls the availability of raw materials. Controls capital. Controls bank rates. Controls the inflation of the currency. Controls the possession of property. Controls industrial capacity. Controls manufacturing. Controls the availability of goods, commodities. Controls the prices of commodities. Controls services and labor force, etc. Controls payments to government officials. Controls legal functions. Controls the personal data files, uncorrectable by party slanders. Interesting. Controls advertising, controls media contracts, controls material available for the TV and viewing, disengages attention from real issues. Pay attention to that. Okay, if they are controlling the material available on the local media, you can bet, I would bet on it, I would win, bet that They are disengaging your attention for real issues because you're not being told those real issues. You have no idea unless you get on that internet and you start surfing around and you start going around on the countries and checking out their news sites. Okay, you haven't a clue because they're not telling you the truth. And that's the truth. They are not telling you the truth. They engages emotions, creates disorder, chaos, and insanity, controls design for more probing tax forms, controls surveillance, controls the storage of information. That's why they're so hard on shutting down the internet. Develops the psychological analysis and profiles of individuals. Isn't that interesting? You notice how more mental disorders they are, and all our children are just warped. And let's give them drugs, and they don't like the way they're thinking, so they must have ADHD, or they don't. Something wrong with them. Give them a drug. I mean, it's insane. Where were we at? Control legal functions. That's a repeat of number 15. Control sociological factors. Control health options. And they do that all the time because dead doctors don't tell the truth. And they shut down any doctors that actually start finding cures for things. And they blackball them, put them in jail, do all kinds of things to them. And, God forbid we tamper with that pharmaceutical money they got. Prey on the weakness, cripple the strengths, leeches wealth and substance. Now here's a table of strategies. Now mind you, this is a manual. It's a manuscript manual. If you do this, okay, you do this, and then you're going to get this. I'll give you to do this. Keep the public ignorant. Less public organization. Maintain access to control points for feedback. You'll get required reaction for outputs, prices, and sales. If you create preoccupation, you lower defenses. See, if I'm so busy worrying about something else, I'm not working on the issue at hand to defend the thing. Makes sense? Now, this is their plan. And then this is they actually enacted this declaration of war on the American people in 19, I think it was, what did I say it was, 48? Attack the family unit. By doing that, you will control of the education of the young. Yes, and they do that. And they did that when they withdrew the education system back in the 30s, when they used to teach children to think for themselves, to actually come to a solution for the problem they were embracing. Okay, they would come to a solution with no conflict. And people can't do that anymore. They don't know how to do that. This country's in really bad shape, okay? Bunch of dummies out here. They really are dumb. And I will admit that I am dumb because I have had to retrain myself how to do this. And it's not very easy, but it takes a lot of practice. But yeah, that's intentionally done to our children. They have private schools, and I've also heard that in some schools they have got different classes for different people. Now, the common folk or the low class don't get to go in those classrooms because those children are being taught at a higher level of education, and the low class person is not allowed there. So that's interesting, but that's I found in some schools. Um, let's see. Uh, Give less cash and more credit and doles. And you get more self-indulgence and more data. Because if you can buy it now and pay for it later, well, not only does that give you a problem, but it gives them information on how you shuffle your feet in order to accomplish that payment. But it puts you in a big bind, it really does. Cash and carry. Attack the privacy of the church, and that will destroy the faith in this sort of government. In this sort of government, it destroys the faith. Okay. Social conformity. Computer programming simplicity. Okay. Minimize the tax protest. Maximize economic data. Minimum enforcement problems. See, do you see what they're doing and what they're achieving with what they're doing? Stabilize the consent. Simplicity coefficients. Tighten control of variables. You get similar computer input data, greater predictability. Interesting. That's why those games are so darn important. Establish boundary conditions, and that gives them problem simplicity, solutions of differential and difference equations. Proper timing, less data shift and blurring. Minimize control gives them minimum resistance to control. Oh, I'm sorry, that was maximize control. That gives them minimum resistance to control. And I can't stand when somebody tries to manipulate me. It just irks me terrible. Collapse of currency. Destroy the faith of the American people in each other. Okay, now it's deliberately being done. It was declared in 48. Rockefeller and that wonderful little college he has declared this with his sidekicks. And yeah, I don't mind throwing names. You know, truth truth hurts. But if y'all want to see this, go to lawpath.com. Check it out. There was a little article in here I wanted to read because I want you to really understand. It goes in here, it talks about the military system analysis, the enforcements, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. We'll go to enforcement. Okay, here's what they do. The factor number one. As in every social system approach, stability is achieved only by understanding and accounting for human nature, action-reaction patterns. A failure to do so can be and usually is disastrous. As in other human social schemes, one form or another of intimidation or incentive is essential to the success of the draft. Physical principles of action and reaction must be applied to both internal and external subsystems. To secure the draft, individual brainwashing, programming, and both the family unit and the peer group must be engaged and brought under control. This is how they did it. Factor number 2, the father. The man of the household must be housebroken to ensure that Junior will grow up with the right social training and attitudes. The advertising media, etc., are engaged to see to it that the father to be is, and you're going to love the term these guys use. It's now, mind you, this is back in the 40s. Okay, are engaged to see it that the father to be is pussy whipped before or by the time he is married. He is taught that he either conforms to the social nut cut out for him, or his sex life will be hobbled and his tender companionship will be zero. He is made to see that woman demands security more than logical, principled, or honorable behavior. By the time his son must go to war, father, with the jelly for a backbone, will slam a gun into his Junior's hands before father will risk the censure of his peers to make a hypocrite of himself by crossing the investment that he has his own personal opinion or self-esteem. Junior will go to war or father will be embarrassed. So Junior will go to war, the true purpose notwithstanding. Now, factor number 3 is the mother. The female element of the social society is ruled by emotion first and logic second. In the battle between the logic and imagination, imagination always wins. Fantasy prevails, material instinct dominates, so that the child comes first and the future comes second. A woman with a newborn baby is too starry-eyed to see a wealthy man's cannon fodden. I read that definition the other day. To gather up the people to the mass of destruction, to the end. Or a cheap house of slave labor. A woman must, however, be conditioned to accept the transaction to reality when it comes, or sooner. As the transaction becomes more difficult to manage, the family unit must be carefully disintegrated. The state-controlled public education and state-operated child care centers must become more common and legally enforced, so as to begin the detachment of the child from the mother and the father at an early age. Inoculation and behavioral drugs, Ritalin, can speed the transition for the child majority. Caution, the woman impulsive anger can override her fear. An irate woman's power must never be underestimated, and her power over a pussy-whipped husband must likewise never be underestimated. It got women the vote in 1920s. Factor number 4, there's only 2 more. Okay. The emotional pressure of self-preservation during the time of war and the self-serving attitude of the common herd, there it is again, herd. Feeling like a cow today, are you? That at the very option to avoid the battlefield, if Junior can be persuaded to go, is all the pressure finally necessary to propel Johnny off to war. Their quiet blackmailing of him are the threats. No sacrifice, no friends, no glory, no girlfriends. Factor number 5, sister. And what about Junior's sister? She is given the all good things of life by her father and taught to expect the same from her future husband, regardless of the price. Now, factor number 6, the last one, and I think this may shock you, but I think you need to hear it. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter become useful beasts of burden or trainers of the same. This concludes what is available of this document. Oh, Isaiah 33:22. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawyer, the Lord is our king, and he will save us. That is the silent weapons for quiet wars. Yeah, that's a mentality of an inbred Rockefeller. So you know what I got to say about that? You know what, dude? They thought I was warped. But you know what? It's all going to be all washed up here. I'm hoping pretty darn soon, you know, because this stuff's really getting out of hand. It really is. But I thought that you guys need to hear that because it's our kids that are really being destroyed at such a rapid rate right now. And they've already warped us out, and not that we're not warped out, because we're not. We're still breathing. We can still defend ourselves. We can still repel them. We can still do things. We can change all of this. Okay, it's a matter of taking action and doing it in a fashion where it is taking effect. But this is what they have been up against doing to us for many years. And now they're getting blatant about it, and they're very arrogant about it. And basically, it's a hey, you, not that's not acceptable. You know, that's not even cool. And they are warped, they are sick, and you know, maybe we need to get them some medical attention. Bye.